Welcome to the Branding PR Podcast, where we dive deep into the stories and strategies of today's most impactful entrepreneurs, business leaders, and professionals. Whether you're building your brand, scaling your business, or just looking for inspiration, you're in the right place. And welcome back to the latest episode of the Branding PR Podcast. I am your host, Brandy Sims, back for another week of hot tops to talk about. And this week is no different. Of course, as always, I'm always checking out what's trending, what's new, what's happening, and trying to decipher between those messages and just what that means for our respective industries and spaces. And this week, I definitely could not have an episode without talking about all the new changes with Meta, and specifically our bro Zuckerberg, aka Zuck, putting out that video explaining all of the changes that are happening with Meta, which was met with a lot of mixed viewpoints, a lot of mixed perspectives. I'm going to give it that. I'll give it that. But the main thing, okay, so with these new changes, and these are very bold changes, like I do not mean that as an understatement. It specifically is going to impact content moderation, right? So the changes are directly related to content moderation and its approach to content moderation as opposed to what it's done in the past. And honestly, kind of why I wanted to talk about this today is what is this going to mean for brand communication moving forward and into the future? It's going to have a huge impact. And why do you think that is? Well, it's because there are billions of people on Facebook or using Meta's platform. So I'm talking about Facebook, social media, but it's really blown up and become a media conglomerate in and of itself. So really, all of these are encompassing all of these things, right? So it's not just Facebook, the social media platform, but all of the other tools that Meta has. So now you're talking about billions of users that are on these platforms. And these changes are relative to the content rules, and those directly impact how businesses and specifically how PR professionals are going to engage with their audiences. So that's why it matters. And that's why it's something that I was like, you know what, we really got to cover this and we got to talk about this and unpack it from beginning to end, what this means and how it's really going to impact how we move forward in terms of brand communication, at least through Meta and on its platforms. So first off, definitely want to give you a little bit more background, more context in terms of Meta's essential moderation shift. Okay, we'll call it a moderation shift. And specifically, talking about Zuckerberg's post, right? So he did a recent post on Threads where he explained Meta's decision to remove fact checking and basically move toward a community note style moderation model. So basically meaning that there's not going to be a disclaimer, there's not going to be a label listed for fact checking posts and comments that are shared on the platform. Now it's just going to pretty much be up to users to check themselves. And as I mentioned before, in a community notes style format. So the community essentially provides fact checking where they deem it necessary. So it's almost taking the responsibility away from the platform and placing it solely on users to determine and decipher from there. So with that being said, the goal of this, at least what was communicated in the video and how I interpreted it, was that they want to increase transparency and really encourage community-driven content regulation. So as I said before, really put the responsibility of fact-checking each other on the users themselves as opposed to the platform by which people are on being responsible for moderating any of that. So pushing from the platform to the user to moderate themselves and each other. Yeah, simple enough, right? So here's the criticism, okay? Because, I can't give you the tea and all of what our goals are and what we hope for without sharing a little bit of critique with it. So the criticism and the response to that is obviously the concerns about potential spikes in misinformation. That was a huge thing during the pandemic and also during the last few elections. was a huge, huge issue and concern, which he largely kind of talks about and touches base on too. It obviously creates the concern of hate speech, which, definitely impacts many communities, myself included, as well as just lessening the ability to have a safe online environment for people to connect, for people to network, for people to just simply engage with other community members. It does create, I guess, that sense of lack of safety, because now if it's up to the users to do the right thing, that's going to be kind of a toss up. But when the platform itself chooses to step away from that content moderation and really push it solely on the users, that is going to be the potential backlash of that. Is you're going to see a rise in hate speech, you're going to see a rise of misinformation, and you're obviously going to see a rise of people feeling that they're on an online community where they don't feel necessarily safe, because there's not a lot of safety protocol or perimeters that are set up to prevent a lot of those things that I mentioned. So that's the criticism of it. And obviously the goals that, Meta has in creating this and really shifting the focus over to the user. So it's going to be very interesting as we move along, to see how that goes. Yeah, I'm kind of curious how that's going to go. But I want to take a little deeper dive into this, right? Because there are some major PR implications in this. And the first thing that really comes to mind for me is just opportunities for brands. There is going to be more freedom in content creation. There's definitely going to be less of a rigid approach to developing content, as well as just the content restrictions. Because those are lifted, this will mean that there's going to be a lot more flexibility that you have in creating content. There's not going to be a lot of those rules. There's not really any barriers for you to communicate to your audience and your fans. So I think the opportunity for brands is that you're going to have a lot more flexibility and a lot more creative freedom and content freedom to share and post as you would like to, without any content restrictions that would otherwise kind of prevent all of that. The other thing is that you are going to be able to engage with your audiences more directly. I think that brands, in this instance, may play a more active role in shaping the narrative, as well as be able to connect through content and really, I should say, community driven moderation in this capacity. People are going to be able to connect a lot more seamlessly because we have a lot of restrictions that will be lifted. The barriers, again, are not going to be there. Those safety perimeters are not going to be there. So in turn, it's going to give you a more direct access to your target audience and who you're hoping to engage with, which can be something that is worthwhile and beneficial. That's why I have it listed as an opportunity for brands. Like, it's going to open the door for you to get really creative, because you're going to have a lot more freedom, more flexibility, but it's also going to give you a lot more access to your audience because there aren't going to be barriers for you to connect with them. So that'll be one of the perks of this, is that, there is going to be that flexibility. Now, on the flip side, there are some risks that you should absolutely watch out for. So, in this instance, again, um, I think that there's going to be increased risk of brand association with misinformation. Okay. Without the fact checking tools, there is likely going to be a spread of false information, and that could create a potential PR crisis risk. And you know how I get down. I've talked about this on other episodes. Crisis is always on the horizon, and it really is up to us, as business owners, to be strategic and prepare and plan as much as possible in advance, so that you really can handle and deal with the crisis as best as you can. But in this instance, this is going to fall right into that same category in terms of proper planning in advance, because you do risk um, putting yourself out there in a way that you could be targeted for sharing misinformation. You could be targeted, and it could create a larger PR crisis situation. With the fact checking, kind of the perk of that was that, it could be addressed very quickly, and you could either issue an apology or, oh, we didn't realize this, and we can retract it, all of that good stuff. Without that, now it's going to be kind of up to the users. And sometimes you don't want the users to call you out. There's been so many campaigns and so many instances in recent history where you don't want to be the fall guy when they call you out for something you did, something you said, or a promise you did not deliver on. And it becomes a viral moment and trend. Okay, we don't want that. but but with all of these new updates, this is one of the risks that you should absolutely watch out for, is that there's no longer a fact checker. There is no safety guard. There is no special guardrail for you. Now everything that you post, you have to be your own fact checker. Make sure that whatever you're sharing, whatever you're preparing, is consistent and it is factual, because otherwise it can come back to bite you in the butt later on. Just saying. Another thing I think is going to be a risk that you definitely need to watch out for is simply managing your reputation. Brands may need to increase definitely their vigilance. I would say definitely the vigilance to avoid backlash over controversial or harmful content. That kind of goes back to what I was saying before. Now that there are no perimeters, or the goal is to not have any perimeters set up, and it's push back to the users, now you have to really think about what it is that you're sharing, what you're preparing, that type of content, and be a much more mindful and cognizant of, have I done my due diligence as the content creator, as the social media manager, to make sure that this is factual information that we're sharing, whatever it may be. Whatever it may be, whether you're giving tips, whether you're providing insight on something, making sure that you've done your due diligence and fact checking it and making sure that information is correct. Now it's going to be on you. It was already on you before, be honest, but now it's even more so going to be on you to do that, because now you could potentially set yourself up for a reputation issue. If you're consistently being known for sharing misinformation, that's going to diminish your credibility as a brand and as a business owner. That you definitely have to really be thinking about and really be concerned with, because it's enough to take down a brand. We've seen it time and time again. So it's something that you definitely need to be mindful of, but also even more hyper vigilant for and about, because now it's something that you don't have those safeguards that are going to help you along in this process. Now you are the safeguard. If you share it, it's going to be taken as what it is, unless proven otherwise. Hey, hey, business rock stars. Got big PR plans for 2025? Then you need the 2025 PR Plan and Workbook. It's your step by step guide to owning the media spotlight, building buzz, and making big moves this year. And guess what? Early bird pricing is live right now, but it won't last long. So why pay more later when you can snag it now and save those extra coins for coffee runs during media pitch marathons? I don't know. Go grab it today, because once it's gone, well, you'll be wishing you hit that buy button sooner. Let's make 2025 your breakout year. Early bird pricing ends soon. Visit brandingpr.com/resources. So, that being said, for my PR pros that are tuning in, definitely there's some best practices that can be utilized in this new terrain, okay? This new terrain that we're dealing with. So I want to go over that with you. So, what best practice do I think PR professionals can undertake in this process and adapting to the new norm for meta platforms? Well, I definitely think it's proactive monitoring. If I can talk today, proactive monitoring. Okay, so that means that you need to invest in some social media and specifically social listening tools. Okay, so part of proactive monitoring is being an active professional in terms of monitoring information. That means you're going behind the scenes before it becomes an issue, before it becomes a thing that we need to maintain and take care of. You're saying that, hey, I'm going to go into this and start monitoring this proactively in a proactive approach and lens so that I can target and course correct as needed. But I can target these things much more effectively and more seamlessly, and that's going to mean an investment. There's a lot of really awesome social listening tools that are available. I know Prowly has a couple things. Critical Mention, yeah, that's another really good one that offers some social listening tools. And for those that are just sitting here like, you're talking about some stuff, I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, great, we need that tool too. That's another thing I need to add to my crazy grocery list of software and tech stuff that I need. Great. No, so social listening tools are essentially those tools that'll allow you to see exactly what are the responses as a whole that you're getting from audience members, fans, followers to the content that you're posting. What are their sentiments? What are their tones whenever you post certain content? Whether it be a static post, a video, hybrid, you catch my drift. That's what social listening tools are assigned to be. It's to allow you to see, okay, it's just how people are engaging with me, and what are they showing interest in, what are they maybe not liking, and being able to pick up on that. It also, on the flip side, not just related to your brand, you can also see just what people are interested in terms of industry and certain types of products. That can be very, very valuable within social listening tools, is you'll be able to see, okay, what are people engaging with more, and how can my product help to solve this problem that they may have? How can I create a solution in this? That's part of a social listening tool too. So, but I digress. Definitely, you're going to need to invest in these tools if you don't have them already. And you're definitely going to need to stay ahead of just negative narratives by quickly addressing any type of misleading content. So, this could be an opportunity for you to come in as a thought leader in this particular space, and really showcase your expertise and your knowledge by combating those negative or potential negative narratives, and really addressing any type of misleading content that may exist, whether it be from your brand, something you may have shared accidentally or and did not fact check, or something that's misleading in the industry of content that's being shared. This can be your opportunity to say, hey, I'm the thought leader, I'm the expert in this space, and I'm going to give you the insight and just my thoughts on this, and why it is problematic or incorrect, whatever the case may be. This could be your opportunity, but definitely starts with being proactive and proactively monitoring just the vibe and the feelings of your audience and your followers as well as fans. The next thing I think it's going to, well, really, another best practice is really honing in on the transparency and authenticity piece. And I know you guys hear it all the time. It's like, oh, authenticity. Oh, my hundreds of thousands of followers, authenticity is just what got me viral. But there is some truth to this. I'm not even going to lie to you. There is some truth to this. This is going to be one of those instances where you really have to double down on authentic storytelling. That means you need to be sharing things that are unique and authentic to you in your authentic way. No one's going to do things the way that you do it. Yes, all of these industries are already exist. Yes, your title is worn by many other people, but nobody can do things like you do. And that is your leverage point. I'm always going to preach this. That is your leverage point. That authenticity piece is a huge important piece, because it's something that nobody can duplicate. They can try, but they can never get exactly what you have and what you have to offer. And that is what you really need to think about and really consider as you're moving into more of an effective storytelling space, is think of the authenticity piece in this, and also the transparency piece. And we kind of talked about that earlier, of why that's important too. But just as a best practice, lead with that transparency and authenticity. That's going to be my buzzword for today, my trick word. But lead with those two areas as one of your best practices, and you'll be fine. You'll be able to address audience fans in the way that needs to be addressed, but you'll also be able to boost that credibility that you have in terms of your brand. And for PR pros, this will help you in creating messaging for your brands that is effective and is going to allow them to increase their credibility and respect among the industry. And then lastly, um, another best practice is definitely leveraging community engagement. You know, we always want people to like us. We want people to comment on our posts, and that's part of it, you know. But the bigger piece is it's not just you post, they comment, right? You need to be actively engaging on these online communities. So engage with these audiences. Um, especially with the new community notes that model that's going to be taking place here, but participate in those discussions. Hop in there. It doesn't mean that you need to be doing a paragraph or an essay long response when engaging on platforms, but it does mean that, you know, add your 2 cents. Gary Vanderchuck has a really good strategy and approach that we even utilize here at Branding PR that has always been highly effective. And it's that strategy for engaging audiences. And part of the main core piece of that is getting on other people's platform, liking their posts, what they're sharing, their content, but also adding your 2 cents in there. What do you think about it? Well, I think that this is a great thing, or I don't really like this. This is what I would do, and so on and so forth. So definitely leveraging community engagement is going to be a huge best practice that's going to be needed, especially for the PR pros that are tuning in here. You're going to definitely need to be leveraging that community engagement. Encourage your followers, especially your loyal followers, to advocate for the brand too. And you can do this by providing accurate information. Give them what they're looking for. They're here on your platform for a reason. They like you, they already vibe with you. Now you just need to follow through with making sure they're consistently sharing authentic and accurate information that's relevant to them, that keeps them engaged and wanting more, and also wanting to advocate for you. That's how you do it. So, best practices to sum it all up: proactive monitoring, transparency and authenticity, and finally, leveraging your community engagement. These are the best practices for PR professionals that want to really adapt to all of the wave of changes that's happening with Meta platforms. So with this, Meta's new approach to moderation, it definitely presents its opportunities. I talked about that earlier, and as well as its challenges for PR pros. But I think that this is going to be it's going to be something that shakes things up a little bit. We're going to see how it goes. And that's just my attitude to everything, guys. Is there's been so many changes. I'm like, we'll see how it goes. And I guess this is just going to be the same, but we'll see how it goes. So, what are the key takeaways? So, with that, this new moderation approach, it's going to be different, but we're going to be fine. But mainly because there are some opportunities that are in the midst. So we just need to leverage on those. I think that brands are definitely going to prioritize the authenticity. If they're smart, they're going to leverage that authenticity, that vigilance, making sure that they are the authority leader that they claim to be. Just saying, part of that is being credible, and then, of course, proactive engagement to make sure that navigating this shift is going to be successful. You're going to need all of those things. And if brands prioritize all of those core areas, they'll be able to do it seamlessly and effectively. I think the key to all of this is that you just got to remain adaptable. That's what comes down to all of this. You've got to remain adaptable. Despite many changes, things are always going to be evolving. We'll say that it's always going to be evolving, but this is your opportunity to really hone in and focus, but really stay adaptable to these changing situations, especially with the social media landscape and media in general. So I want to encourage you all definitely to subscribe, leave me a review. If you really enjoyed this episode, if you found this really helpful for you, especially as you're kind of putting your PR planning together, definitely leave us a review. And then I also want to invite you to share your thoughts. I want to know, like, what do you think about the changes to Meta, as well as the moderation kind of introduction here? By just commenting on threads. You can hit us up on Branding PR, BRANDINC PR. Or you can just simply reach out on social media. Our @ handle is the same across the board. Definitely check out some other episodes. I talk about much of the PR planning, orchestration, strategies, tactics, and other episodes, just to help you again as you're adapting and putting your plays and your plans together in a more engaging and more effective manner. So I just want to give you a quick reminder to check out the new Branding PR newsletter. That's a bi-weekly newsletter. I share more tips, more helpful resources for you there. You can sign up on the website at brandingpr.com, as well as check out our first Q&A session of the year. It's going to be a live Q&A session on a Saturday. I know I cannot believe that I am doing this, but Saturday morning, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a vibe. But we'll be talking PR planning for 2025. So definitely get out your notebooks. Definitely have your questions prepared. And I'm going to go through it with you. And we're going to get this linked up and ready to go. So you will have a successful PR and marketing year. Thank you again for tuning in. And I'll see you guys next week.